vote with a number, and then compare that to at the end who they thought won the debate, regardless of whether they agree with it or not. And that would be interesting. But yeah, I'll do a poll as well, so we'll get a sort of a three-way comparison. It's always good to have more data points. So
you have multiple. You might have people scoring the debate who actually are more into debate, and they'll score it on technical aspects of rhetoric and evidence and facts and research and oratory skills versus the actual winning over to the aside and how many minds were changed. And those people don't have to formally score the debate based on some sort of rubric and just kind of saying like, I believed in free will before the debate, I believe on free will after the debate, and see if anyone actually changed their mind.
sounds great. I'm excited. I love numbers.
Me too. Hey, thanks for having me on. Great to meet you, fellers. I'm going to sign off and go to bed. Thank you all.
Nice to talk to you, Zach. Can't wait to see you for the debate. Really looking forward to it. Thanks again for suggesting it.
Goodbye.
Bye, Zach. If Zach is still listening, maybe you on Facebook or something could try to help him out with his tech, like, get him an avatar, figure out what's happening with his sound or internet, just so people, so he doesn't have these tech issues. So, he might be a lawyer, like he might not be a great tech guy, but you might be able to offline chat with him and help him out with, some basic issues. So at least people will be able to give his arguments a fair chance because he's not having any tech issues.
To me, everything sounded good except for the occasional roboting, which can be resolved by hardlining or going somewhere where you have good reception for Wi-Fi. And as far as the avatar, I think he actually had one last time, so I'm sure he knows how to do it. It's just maybe he's on another account this time. He hasn't updated the picture, but yeah, I'll talk him through that if he's not listening anymore. I'll message him. Just dox yourself, buddy.
Nationalist Party, Canadian Nationalist Party. I just got a hat from it. We're going to be registered in hopefully tomorrow. We'll be registered as a legal party to be on the ballot in the next Canadian election, which is in October 2019. We're going to be there.
You heard it here first, folks. We're breaking news far ahead of anyone else. We got the hottest takes. We got the biggest personalities, and that's why people keep on coming back to the Week in Review with Duvid and Church of Entropy. So, John, why don't you fill us in? How did you find that stream? I know you did a drunk stream. I don't know if that was this week or the week before. It all sort of blends together, but how's things going in the streaming community for you, buddy?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, I had a couple beers before I came on this stream again, so I apologize for. I think was I on your stream while I was drunk last weekend?
Yeah.
I forget. Oh, so that's 2 in a row, and I had a sober stream with Claire, so I apologize. I'm not that drunk, but anyway, yeah, I would just like to say that I was saying in the chat a little bit earlier that I think there's a lot that we can learn from the third world. And, a lot of people will kind of quiver like, whoa, what do you mean, John? Like, that's pretty offensive. Like, why would you want to learn from those inbred, uneducated people? But listen to this, right? If our first world society has such a lack of meaning for the everyday person, then that society is in no way superior to what the third world has. This is my take. It's pretty edgy. I don't care, and it might offend people, but you gotta look at history and all the empires that have fallen. It's always the barbarians that always come and revitalize it. And so I say is that maybe we should learn a little bit from them and implement some of our first world technology, but don't be so dependent upon it.
I think it's the barbarians that make the civilization collapse, right? So they're not really revitalizing it. They're kind of trouncing.
How is civilized people? If you look at the modern man today, how can they engage in an actual conflict. Most people don't even want to engage in political discussion. Like it's too uncomfortable for them. And most people are pretty ignorant about a lot of what's going on, especially in Canada. So why would they be a superior character as opposed to somebody who lives in Chechnya, who practice Islam, but Islam is therefore not that liberal, therefore they're a bunch of inbred, muzzies, I guess, or Arabs. But really, if you look at like Islam is practiced by Chechens. Chechens are pretty Aryan, like they're blonde hair, blue eye. So it should be idolized. I'm against idolatry to some extent, but the alt-right should be gawking at it. But when you say that, hey, maybe we should be more like Chechens, I'm not necessarily mean be poor, but maybe we should learn from them, learn from their patriarchal society, learn from their toughness of character, because character reigns supreme over competency. If you have competency but don't have character, that is the most dangerous combination. But if you have competency and you have character, that's fine as well. But if you don't have character, that's what's going to destroy your society.
I think it's actually the other way around. Competency is what matters. Character, you really only need it for the front man. Some people just don't really have the energy to worry about that stuff too much. So,
well, okay, so character. So those third world barbarians. So how is America dealing with Afghanistan? How are they dealing with Iraq? How are they dealing with Iran? They're supposedly barbaric societies, yet they have never won a war. Or Vietnam. They're so technically advanced and so technically competent, yet they can't beat a bunch of rice farmers who are uneducated.
okay, these are very complex issues that I'd be more than happy to discuss with you in depth. Maybe this isn't the right place for that at this exact time, but I'm totally.
Is it because of my boisterous? I'm loud, so am I offending people?
No, you're not offending anyone, John. It's just because Duvid wants to keep it to just week in review type topics without any digression, and that's why having people on a shorter amount of time.
The purpose of this stream is to mutually benefit ourselves in our streaming, and we'll allow a certain amount of the ideas that people are working on or self-promotion. But we're basically trying to keep this within the realm of week in review. What are you doing with yourself? What streams did you appear on this week? What ones do you appear? Do you plan on appearing in? Or even like in ideas, saying if you've really been struggling with these ideas and thinking about a lot this week, like in terms, is kind of like an obvious, like obviously you could learn something from everybody. And even if you want to rank first, second, third, or give some sort of ranking of people, even people at whatever bottom, however you rank it, come out to the bottom. Yes, there's still going to be things you could learn from them. I mean, that should just be obvious. That's like HBD, human biodiversity. Time is limited. Chechenian, why you chose the Chechen culture or whatever. But
religion, man. It's not just materialism, right? So I could tell you how my week went, and I could tell you what stream I went on. So I went on a stream. It was Claire, and it was Con Ops. And Con Ops, I basically exposed Con Ops as atheists. And how I did that is I said, do you actually believe in what the Old Testament says? And I read him Romans because he's very tolerant of homosexual activity. He says, oh, well, they're doing nothing wrong. And I feel like if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. That's my approach to this degeneracy. So he wants to give them an inch. I know that they'll take a mile. And he advocates has a soft spot for Christianity. And I read him Romans, and I'm like, if you call yourself a Christian in any way, you would be condemning this homosexual behavior as a sin. Romans chapter 1, verse 24, and then it goes to verse 24 to verse 30. It speaks about homosexual behavior as people going away from God, and when they consciously reject God's wisdom and they have recreational sex, basically what it'll lead to is having sex with a man, a woman with a woman. And so what I was trying to explain to him was that if you go down this path of recreational sex, it'll eventually lead to having gay sex based on your secular rationale. And he called me, I think he called me names. He called me like, oh, you're practicing witchcraft for trying to explain God. I'm like, okay, this is how I try to explain God. Okay, you can go back to that stream I had with Claire when I was talking to Con Ops. What I said to him is I said this to all the atheists. What I say is that how can you say that we are biologically a sperm or an egg? How can you justify that? Because, okay, so let's say, for the sake of argument, let's just say we are a sperm, or we are part sperm, or we are part egg. Okay, fine. I'll give you that stance. But what were we before our fathers and mothers were in existence? And he called me practicing voodoo, pretty much. And I feel like I exposed him. I exposed him for the character of what he is. He is an over academic, intellectualized, critical theorist atheist, like a Richard Dawkins. And I exposed him. And I exposed atheists with this argument. And they have no answer for it.
Nice job. I think seems like you're really pleased with yourself from that. So I'm glad you had a chance to talk to Con-Ops. So good for you. It is a weak position.
Yes, it is. And another thing too is he called out like Deuteronomy about, like, he said that he basically made his own interpretation. I read him some passages from Deuteronomy, and he basically, what he did is that he justified his interpretation as rape when it comes to taking over a country. So, like, basically in Deuteronomy, what is it? Was it in chapter 2, verse 24? I might be wrong on that, but I know I'm wrong. I know I'm right on the Romans verse, but I might be wrong on this. But anyway, it's in Deuteronomy, and it basically talks about, so once you take over a village or a country, right, you're supposed to mourn the death of your mother and your father of the woman that you want to wed, right? So that's like a whole month, right? And then if you want to wed her, you can do that. And if she wants to let go, she can always do that, but that's some sort of, I think that's what it is. Yeah, she can always opt out, I guess, of the marriage. So he accused me that's rape, but really it's just a war. It's just a guideline. It's a guidebook on warfare, on how to deal with women and children and all that. So, and it also talks about if you have two wives, right, and you don't love your wife, your second wife, anymore, you're supposed to give. If you bear children with two wives, and you give the wife that you don't love anymore, if you want to split up with her, you're supposed to give the first son your property. So I think that's very patriarchal. And that's another thing too, that he actually push back against. And I feel like he wants to enforce this matriarch. He wants to force this sexual evolution. I don't think he wants to do anything, you know? And I just seems, I don't know why would someone think like that. Probably hangs out with women too much, honestly. So I think that restoring the patriarchy and getting rid of the corrupt elite is number one priority. And whatever political affiliation that you have, you should be free to pursue that. But giving women the advice that they're equal to men and having this secular corrupt elite be lionized as somebody who should be looked up to or has some sort of credibility, they shouldn't have any credibility. They should be discredited to a T, and to a point where, just like with any other Gentile or not low-level Jew, if you are incompetent at your job, you usually get fired. That should apply to the elite. So I'm like a radical meritocracy liberal in that sense, is that I want to see competency, but not just competency. I value character a lot more, and I view these people who run our society right now are lacking in character. Maybe they're competent in technology, but they are very lacking in character, which is why
you're still developing your worldview, and so you kind of have like a ramble because you're still thinking about how to develop your worldview, and you have all these social criticism and things you're researching. So you're kind of just giving us like a book report, and this is what you're studying. These are the social criticisms you have, but you still haven't really formed a cohesive worldview.
What do you mean by cohesive worldview? I think criticism is a good step in developing that worldview.
Well, I agree. I mean, to be critical might always be useful, but I mean, criticism is generally, a precursor to developing a worldview. So you have criticism on the way you see things are, and the way you perceive the world to be has a lot of problems. And so you look at, why is the world structured the way it is? What are the different philosophies or political structures that are causing things to be structured in the way that they are, and related to all your criticisms of the way people function, the way society is organized, let alone where you actually develop and say, if only society were structured and organized this way, and then it might solve some of the criticisms you have.
Like, do we really know, like, all the world's answers, though? Like, I don't know. Like, I think, you know what it is? Okay. You want to push? Okay, yeah. You want to question me on that? That's fine. What I believe in is that I kind of have a Marxian view of economics in a way, but not necessarily like dialectical materialism, but I view it as like the reason why that our society is degenerating is because of merchant values. And what merchant values do is we are kind of a slave. Like the purchase value of $1 is always declining over time, but our values are not adjusting to the times. We're still materialistic. We still kind of max out on our materialism, if you know what I'm saying, right? So the way I see it is that we are not adjusting to a new challenge, and we're still going in our old ways because it's, humans are kind of trained since they're young to be materialistic in this industrial revolution. Most of our education is based upon people who can't read, but now our system is incompatible with the technological advancements that we have made. So we haven't assimilated people into this new technological age. And basically the elites, they want to capitalize on this and capitalize on ignorance and try to censor people for wrong thinking.
And where do you fit into this? and say, okay, let's say you're right and you've recognized some sort of greater truth, and you think that because you've recognized this, you could, somehow help humanity direct and steer to a better course?
Well, the thing is,
Or is it, you've recognized some sort of unfortunate reality that's unchangeable and just have to adapt the best to limit the suffering that's inevitable due to greater forces that have forced this reality upon us?
okay, here's what I understand what you're saying, and I view this as kind of like a first world criticism of my argument. So if the first world is so great, if all this material wealth, if I'm supposed to be very appreciative, I am to some extent, but not with the values that come with it. I'm not appreciative of that. So if I'm appreciative of this values, why is there so many people addicted to drugs? Why is there alcoholics? Why is there people trying to explore meaning in their life if their career can't fulfill them? I view that as a failure, and I view that on a scale as that failure is so much more catastrophic than living in a poor country, where you have religion, you have community, and you have meaning in your life. I view that as superior than to the values of the West. I view that as more important. I'm not saying I'm a Luddite and I disregard technology.
Is it the best of both
But I
worlds
think what
fallacy?
happens is people, they idolize mammon. They idolize wealth. And they think, wow, look at that person. Aren't they so great? They have so much money and they maintain over time. And that shouldn't be a mark of a superior person. That person could have all the material in the world, but they could be rotten at their core. And without those material possessions, they are nothing. They are dog shit. They're worse than dog shit, you know? And so what I'm saying is I'm describing that same criteria to the first world when I compare the first world to the third world, right?
Okay,
So
thanks for sharing your views. Maybe you can come back another time when you haven't been drinking so much, because I find it's been...
I'm making sense.
Well, you are making sense, just we're trying
A
to
drunk
on subject here, and
A drunk man's thoughts is a sober man's what sober man is actually thinking. So I think I can feel I'm more honest when
okay,
I'm drinking a little bit.
maybe can we stream some other time when you're sober, please? Because I'm trying. David and I talked about it. We don't really want to have visibly intoxicated people on the stream for the week in review. I'll do some more live streams later. You can come on those, okay?
My argument's that bad.
Formulate your thoughts.
John, they're not bad arguments. It's just that what you're talking about is a very complicated subject, would take a lot of time to really go into in depth, and we don't really want to do that on the week in review. We just want to keep it sort of short and sweet, and that's what we do with everyone. Everyone's just come on for like 10-20 minutes and shared their thoughts and then headed out, because that's the format that we want for the show. But I'll have a chill stream soon, and if you want to have one, just message me on social media. We can set one up. So I do want to go into these things, but I think it's better to do it sober / give ourselves the time to actually answer those questions in the detail required, because I see where you're coming from. I'm not dismissing your opinion. It's a bit outside of the scope of what we can discuss right now, but can we maybe say goodbye for now, and then we'll set up a stream soon in the future?
Claire doesn't do this to me when I'm drunk.
Well, she's in
Points for Claire.
She's in the chat right now.
All right, I'll see Claire in chat then.
Thanks for coming.
Point 1 for Claire.
We'll talk to you soon.
Point 1 for. You know what Claire did? She was like a therapist to me when I'm drinking. It's just like I can go on multiple times, but I understand you have a format. But point 1 to Claire's format. So to me anyway. So or that's worth. But anyway, thank you everybody. I will go now. I hope I added to the discussion and maybe you guys something to think about. So yeah, I'll just join Claire in a chat. So thanks Church of Entropy for your all knowing wisdom of leadership. I I don't necessarily agree with you on everything, but you know, that's the same thing with Claire. So I would like to foster some more discussion with you.
I'm sure one day we'll be totally clear on everything and you'll totally see where I'm coming from. So thanks for saying that.
Okay. All right. Peace out, everybody.
Bye. Yeah.